is this what you envisioned it when you first started the idea of working with Glenn back in like the 80s?
Well, when we first started working, it was quite different, because in them days, of course, Glenn, when we done the Seven Star album, was not in a very good condition. He was doing a lot of drugs, and he was just not Glenn, you know.
Right.
And of course, nowadays, in the last 15, 17 years, he's been clean and sober, and he's so good, you know, so different. He's always been an extremely talented guy and very good musician. And I think sort of nowadays it sort of really, you know, he comes into his own now. He's such a great, you know, musician.
Right. Had you paid much attention to what he was doing solo-wise, especially the last few albums? It's just, for my ears, been some, like, his best music that he's ever done.
Yeah, he's done some really good stuff. I say he's always been a great musician and singer, and he's always come up with some good ideas. And so, yeah, I mean, he's like a music machine at the moment. He absolutely loves. His whole thing is focused on music, and he absolutely loves it, and he's great to be around, actually. It's sometimes almost too much. I have to tell him to stop, because he's so wound up with it. He just breathes it, you know.
Yeah, he is a bit hyper. It's kind of like being a teenager again, I guess, because it's second life.
He's almost trying to catch up with all the lost time he had in the 70s, you know, when he was doing a lot of drugs. We got together first, Glenn and I. Glenn came over to England, and we went into a studio, or like a writing studio, because mine at home, I'd moved home and I was having another one built, so we couldn't use mine. So we went into one in Birmingham in England, and we just sat down. I played Glenn we talked roughly about some ideas. I played Glenn some riffs, and he said, oh, I like that one, I like this one, and so on and so on. And basically we started straight off. We started working from right away, and he was coming up with like 10,000 ideas onto it. You know, he's really enthusiastic, and it was brilliant to do it. So we got a basic idea of what we were going to do, and then when Kenny came in, we went into the studio and rehearsed the songs, and then we went down to Wales and into the studio and recorded them. So it was very much writing, because the idea was with this album we wanted to play it live. We wanted to have a band situation where we could play it and then record it, and the reason for that is also so we can go out and tour with it, so it sounds the same. You know, it's not all done on machine, if you know what I mean.
But was it very different to do a record as a trio versus kind of like a conglomeration of musicians like you've done really in the last few years?
Yeah, it was. It was very refreshing, actually, because we could actually see what was happening before us. You know, you see it all happening there and then, because that was the band.
Yeah.
When I've done stuff before, when we've had different singers and different things, it builds up to something at the end. But this was, you could sort of see, well, that's the way it's going to be, you know.
Right.
The structure and everything, and of course, being able to work solidly with Glenn. Most of the stuff everything I threw at Glenn, he could sing on, so it was so much easier than working with somebody that says, oh, I can't sing to that, I can't do this, I can't do that. You know, Glenn never ever said that. He was capable of doing anything on it, you know.
Right.
So it's very, very refreshing, very good.
Right. Was there more material that came out of these sessions that could show up later, or was this kind of like, you're like, this is it, this is done?
Well, we actually done 14 or 15 songs, but we only put 10 on the album. At first, they were all on there, and I personally thought it was too much, and I said to Glenn, I think there's too much here, you know. We're going to have to take some off. And it was difficult to see what to take off, really. Right. And Glenn said, oh, I didn't think you were going to take that one off. And I thought, well, you know, we've got to take something off. And we decided at the end that these were going to be the 10, but we had the others that we're certainly going to use as a B-side or whatever, for Japan or whatever it may be, you know.
Right. So nothing wasted?
No, it won't be wasted. And of course, when we come back to write again for another session, we'll it'll be the same again. I think we seem to sort of come up so quick, so bounce off each other so good that we know we're going to walk in that day and come out with something afterwards.
Right.
And we're planning on the next album, of course, to go in with Kenny as well, so the three of us will work from basic scratch, all together.
Have you gone past Sabbath? Is this going to be kind of like the band that Tony Iommi does in the future?
Well, for me, I mean, certainly doing this album with Glenn, it sort of, it was all so, it all fit into place, and we had a great time doing it, and everybody was really enthusiastic. Glenn, Kenny Aronoff, and myself, we were really enthusiastic, and it sort of pushed the whole thing forward. With Sabbath, it's a slightly different thing, and Bill was very enthusiastic. I mean, Bill would be there all night here.
Right.
Bill came over to England before we started the Sabbath tour, and he came into my studio at home, and we started jamming and putting ideas down. It was really good, and providing you've got everybody that's into it to want to do it, you'll do it, but it has to be a full commitment for everybody. You can't have somebody going, well, I don't know really. It's got to be a real full commitment, and I'm not sure whether Sabbath's ready for that yet. I would hope it would. It would be nice to do it. Certainly, Bill and I would. We often talk about it, doing an album, and I think we owe our fans to do another album, but as yet we haven't after all these years. I mean, for me, it's just going to be great to get out and tour with Glenn and Kenny, because it's a different thing for me altogether.
Right.
And I've never actually taken the stage without the name of Sabbath,
Right.
So it'll be very different for me.
Wow, yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had Sabbath in some form or other, but I've never gone out as Iommi or Glenn Hughes and Iommi, whatever we're going to call it.
Right.
I've never done that.
Wow. The opportunity to go off and play with other people doesn't seem like you've either desired to do that, or has it been not having the opportunity to go off and play?
Well, I mean, most of my time, to be perfectly honest, has always been devoted to Sabbath for 37 years.
Right.
And I've put everything into Sabbath, and I always I sort of never thought much about venturing off on my own. It was always, if I'd write anything, it would go into Sabbath, and that was it. But it's the last few years I thought, well, I could wait forever to be doing a Sabbath album, or I seem to be waiting around, especially now we're back as the original lineup for the last 10 years, where before I could go out with another singer and we'd do Sabbath stuff,
Right.
Now it's become more of a thing where if we're not going to work for a year as Sabbath, you sort of, what do? Do I wait? And there's always talk of, are we going to do a Sabbath album? Oh, no, we're not. Oh, we are. Oh, we're not. So I just got sort of a bit fed up with it. I thought, that's it. I'm going to just get on and do what I enjoy, because it drives me up the wall just sitting, waiting, and I just can't. I don't work that way. I have to be, I have to do something. I have to write and play.
Right.
And so this is a great opportunity for me now to go out and tour with Glenn and Kenny, and then if we do anything in Sabbath in the future, then I can do that as well. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the good thing for me in that is that there's a whole range of Sabbath material, not just the Aussie years, We've got some great stuff afterwards, which unfortunately, because we got the old, well, not unfortunately, but because we got the old the original lineup back, a lot of the after Aussie years has got flattened, you never sort of hear it. We can't play it because Ozzy, couldn't do that. It wouldn't be right.
You can't hear Ozzy singing Heaven and Hell?
No. So that's the thing, you see. So with Glenn and doing my own stuff, we can pick from not only the Aussie catalogue, but the Dio and Tony Iommi, anything, Ian Gillan, and I think we can have a real good selection of songs to choose from, as well as doing our own the Fused album and the stuff I've done with Glenn in the past, the Depth Session or whatever.
Right.
7 Stars. So there's and also again, we'd like to. For me, I like to play longer than we're doing at the moment, because we're doing the Ozfest at the moment, and you're sort of limited on time, really.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, I like to do. I would like to do a couple of hours or so,